I'm not gonna lie. As I was watching, I felt like I was just kind of like watching a string of episodes, kind of of the show, just kind of together, and I'm just like, this feels so right at home for me.
This soundtrack kicks ass. We can big it up more. This soundtrack is great.
One thing that I also appreciate about Watanabe's world is just how effortlessly black and brown characters can just exist.
This film is what you get when someone actually sees anime as like an art form and not a vehicle to push some more merchandise or some goofy fetish shit like you get with a lot of modern anime. Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's the No Level Cap Podcast. We're back once again with the crew to talk about all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, none of the bullshit. Let me introduce my incredible co-hosts. We've got the Black Daredevil and the secret weapon of No Level Cap, Terrence Flowers. What's going on, Terrence?
It's been an interesting week. You know how like some real life things came up where you know how you take a look at your room and you're like, you know, this could look a little bit better. I need to do better here. And so I actually spent a couple days cleaning my room, like vacuuming, dusting, and throwing out stuff that I didn't need. You know, just don't want to.
I'm looking at my room right now. I'm like, yeah, this needs to happen.
You know, something when you get to a certain age, you realize like some of this stuff that's just kind of like hanging around, I really don't need. And honestly, I need to do that for other sections of my place as well. But you know, take it one thing at a time. But yeah, I guess did a couple of real life things this week, so took care of that. But outside of that, everything's been good, and looking forward to tonight's review or today's review.
Excellent.
Can't be giving away the time. That's a secret.
All right, next up we got One Punch Man, the master of combos, Devin Butts. What's going on, Devin?
Good, man. Actually, much of the same materials. I think yesterday I was off. I actually cleaned up my room when I woke up, got out of the way early. Then the rest of the day spent on editing the video. That's pretty much what I've been on Mortal Kombat. Even though Mortal Kombat is like horrible on PC, I've still been managing to be able to like record footage for it. But it's a process. I mean, the game take you like 3 minutes to go to like different modes. It's like a big waste of time when you're just trying to record something. It's like it takes forever. But you know, it is what it is. I'll know from now on, maybe not to get stuff on PC.
Ouch. At least anything from WB, man.
Yeah, from WB. Played Liza P. That was a game I was really looking forward to this year.
Awesome.
I haven't gotten into it like I want to yet because I've been doing some editing, but I'm liking what I played so far. I was showed a hilarious boss name earlier from some of these guys and had me laughing quite all I gotta say is like it's some real strong bosses in
I was gonna say it's an unbeatable boss in that bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for me, man.
All right, man. Next up we got the collector of collectors, the master of Twitch, Will Coleman. What's good, Will?
Not much, man. It's just been a bit of a work week for me, and just like Terrence said with the cleaning up, I changed out my bed sheets and everything. So yeah, it was time to do that. Yes, and yes, I
bought new ones, right?
Look, we got plenty of sets that are clean, washed, and ready to go. I was like, look, gotta switch them out. And yes, I conquered the fitted sheet. I conquered that, so yeah.
What are y'all? I sound on a fresh 25. I thought this was an older show. I thought this was the old Taku show. Y'all all sound young as hell.
Hey, look, bro. It had to be changed. It had to, man. It was time.
Hopefully. I'll move on. Last we've got the living cartoon, the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's popping, Rakeem?
Oh yeah, guys, nothing much. This week has been somewhat busy. We had like a lot of after work activities this week. They're trying to every once in a while, my job, they want us to do some extra things. But on top of that, I've been working a little bit of overtime during certain days. So after work, I basically had a lot of time going over after work. So I'm kind of tired from the week I had. I even had a friend who came from out of town, and we went out to dinner after work this week. So I've been kind of tied up doing that. But in between time, I'm always in my eternal backlog playing something. Mortal Kombat, I'm still on that. Luckily, I got the PS5 version, which doesn't really have many issues. It has some.
Rub it in.
No, I still have some issues. Like I had a sound glitch one time, but that was like one outlier. I don't really have it that much. Still playing Final Fantasy 16, trying to finish that up. I feel like I'm progressing in that game. And I think I'm really far, and it's like, no, bro, you still nowhere near the end. Like, keep going.
You thought you was done?
How
It was 12 side
this
quests.
game?
It's got a lot of side content. Like you don't even realize. Like it doesn't seem like it's a lot at first because it's like 2 or 3 side quests at a time. When you get to the middle and the late game, you get a lot of side quests. Like
yeah, if I had to knock Final Fantasy 16 for anything, it's how it handed out the side quests. It kind of kicks the pacing of the game square in the dick. It really
does.
Like early on, it is fine. Like you might get 2 or 3 here and there after a chapter. You're like, oh, okay, I'll knock these out. But once you get to that midway, that 2 or 3 turn to 6, and when you get to the later part, it go from 6 to 10 or 12, and you just like, all right, now this is putting the game to a screeching halt at this point. So, still a great game, but
they are side quests, so you can always just move on without doing them.
Yeah, that's can, true. But me being a completionist, I would only knock them out, and plus, I wanted to get the trophy for getting the weapon. So.
That's fair.
I ain't doing all them hunts. Be honest.
I did.
I put my foot down. I put my foot down today. I'm like, well, one part of it is side quests give you materials to get better weapons. So certain weapons you need materials from the side quests, like the hunts specifically. You pretty much need to do them to get the higher weapons. So it's not required, but it does help considerably. But yeah, off of that, just still trying to finish up some of my backlog, get through that stuff. Still playing Mortal Kombat, enjoying that, and just working, being black in America.
That's a full-time job.
Shit, that's a full-time job. We'll let you get back to it as soon as we wrap up with this podcast. Of course, I'm Sage Ashford, the man who won't shut up. It's been, it's work time for me, deadlines, all that shit. Who cares? It's this work shit. Nobody wants to hear about that bullshit. Instead, I've been on like a lot of video games lately. Trails to Azure, I've been getting into. I tried out a little bit of Jagged Alliance, which is really fun. If you haven't seen it, it's basically like if A Team was a video game, was like a strategy game, a strategy RPG. Very cool. A lot of like mercenaries you buy, and like they helping you like basically take a country back from like an evil despot that tried to like overthrow it. I've played a little bit of Ratchet and Clank, and then of course I've been playing some stuff on live stream, which I'll get into in a little bit. But first, if you didn't know, No Level Cap goes live every Monday morning. We're on YouTube for video fans. If you prefer the audio version, we're live on Spotify as well. We've also started game streaming every Sunday night around 10 p.m. Central. You'll find me, Rakeem, Devin playing video games together, except this week, where we'll be recording a special game review for y'all to check out. Tune in later in the week. You can see what that review is. The streaming will be back next week as we delve into the world of Lost Judgment. And it's a lot of people getting beat up, a lot of heat actions. And people getting smashed in the head with couches and chairs and anything that this tiny man can pick up, this tiny Japanese man can pick up and throw at people.
We got the heat. Key to the streets.
They really got the heat. We got the heat. So this week, we back to doing anime reviews, and we picked up another classic, the 2001 film Cowboy Bebop. In America, I found out is apparently just called Cowboy Bebop the movie. Yeah. That's not what it's called elsewhere. It's actually called, well, we're going to get weeb about it, Cowboy Bebop Tengoku no Tobira. But actually, it's Knocking on Heaven's Door. But like they couldn't get the rights to that name because it's like a famous, I think, Bob Dylan song, if I'm not mistaken. Like they couldn't get the rights to the name, and so they just had to settle for Cowboy Bebop the movie. But I just wanted to get into it. It was a list of we worked down a list of like anime classics, and I saw that one and I was like, yeah, like this is, I hadn't seen it in so long, I basically forgotten everything about it, like literally. And so I was like excited to see, like, is this movie as good as I thought it was, like when I first saw it? And let's get into that. Like, let's find out like what everybody thought of it, like where y'all stand on the film. Devin, what did you think of the film?
Actually, I really love Cowboy Bebop and the aesthetic of it. It's just like such a cool anime. Spike is one of the coolest characters, voiced by one of the best voice actors. Like Steve just does an amazing job. He also is really good in another one of the animes I like, Big O. But anyway, this movie was actually pretty good. This movie reminded me of like kind of a blockbuster like action thriller. Like if you look at like a lot of real world movies, like this kind of reminded me that like some type of bioterrorism, and like the guy's trying to go stop it. You know, this guy that maybe used to be like an ex-soldier or something, he has like this vendetta. Like, man, this is like almost like some what's the movie with Jason Statham, Transporter, kind of got those type of vibes. Yeah, I really like this film, man. Like I said again, just the whole cast, from Cowboy Bebop. I actually really like what's the dog's name? Ein and Edward. I think that's such a cool little duo. I don't know why, like Corgi is just like some really cute dogs. And he just, even though he didn't play a huge role in the movie, he was definitely an honorable mention. This movie also kind of gave me some Metal Gear Solid vibes, like the scenes where Vincent and Spike was running hands. I'm like, this almost reminds me of that scene at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 where Old Snake and Liquid are fighting, especially at the end of the movie.
Knives and shit.
Yes, at the end of the movie where they were fighting and like Spike gave them like a Tekken combo. I
wasn't the only person to notice that because he kicked the shit out that man at one point.
He was this. But again, like I said, this is, you take Cowboy Bebop and you just kind of like amplify because it's a film. Like I said, the animation, I always do the animation style of Cowboy Bebop. And of course, if they do a film, they're gonna like up the ante. So this just looked amazing. The scene at the end where they were like the flight, dog fight, air fight scene was dope. And am I the only one that thinks Vincent looked like what's his name, Zangetsu from freaking Bleach?
Oh,
wow.
So, I guess I can see that.
That's where you been in. That's where you been in. The first I was like, because at first, like, I feel like they were kind of going for like an evil Spike looking for him.
Yes.
So I was like, this is on purpose because he looks like evil Spike. Like, okay. Of course, his name is Vincent. Kind of had some with the whole nano. He had the experiments done on him. He had with the nanites, and when he was with Faye, it's almost like some vampiric type stuff was in there. Like he kind of gave her his blood. I'm like, so y'all trying to Vincent vampire? Like, I see what y'all doing. I get it.
Okay, that was the one part of the film where I'm like, this don't work like that.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
Blood in it.
Yeah, I guess it is true. Yeah.
Like, you'll get that shit out of here. But other than that,
this was a good film, man. Like I said, it's high octane. The scene where they had the little dog fight kind of brought me back to Redline, because that scene right there was like you could see like the heavy inspiration from that going on about this movie. Of course, obviously like the Lupin the Third type vibe with the just the way that the clothing. I don't know, man. Cowboy Bebop just one of them things. Like, I know this is because I've never seen this movie, but I knew it was gonna be good. I went into it like, yes, this is something that I know I will enjoy. So I really liked it, man. I really liked it.
What would you give it?
I would have to give that a 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoyed that movie.
I rock with it. Okay. Will, man, what did you think?
As an avid Cowboy Bebop fan myself, I do own the movie. I do have it, but it's not within arm's reach, so I didn't go reach for it. I wouldn't reach elsewhere, if you get what I mean. So, but I really do have to say I enjoyed this movie, and especially that opening sequence. That opening sequence really sticks out. And I've always heard like the rumor that it was rotoscoped. And apparently that's not the case. That's really just flat out natural talent from somebody. And it was from the guy who worked on Genro. I can't remember his name.
Nice.
But he did that. So what you saw right there was pure artistic penmanship.
You talking about the director?
Not who was the director? What's his name?
Okiura?
Thank you. That's him. Mm-hmm. Apparently that's him. That's all his work. He put his hands to that and made that work. That was not rotoscoping, apparently, because I heard it was, and then I see it isn't. They say he just cold like that. But full on. I love the movie, and it felt like, I'm not gonna lie, as I was watching, I felt like I was just kind of like watching a string of episodes, kind of of the show, just kind of together, and I'm just like, this feels so right at home for me. I just really like that about the movie. It just felt like just ran from like one episode to the next, one to the next, one to the next. I love the fight scenes in it too between Vincent and Spike, especially the one on the Sky Rail train. I love that one a lot, especially after Spike gave him that good old fashioned 10-piece combo on the side of the seat, and then he gave him that kick. And for those of y'all that paid attention, that kick is also a good old fashioned reference to the opening of Cowboy Bebop, because he throws that kick in there too. If you pay some attention, I had to rewind it twice. I'm like, I know that kick, but it's such a great movie. Everything they did from top to bottom was really, really good. The animation was great. The soundtrack was definitely amazing. That right there was top notch. It fit the aesthetic of the show to a T. So Yoko Kanno, forever in a day, top tier, goated, love you. If I had to get this movie a rating, it's definitely like a 9, no doubt about it. It's a 9 for me.
That's what's up, man. For me, man, what a fucking film! Like, this is a film this film is what you get when someone actually sees anime as like an art form and not a vehicle to push some more merchandise or some goofy fetish shit like you get with a lot of modern anime. It's an amazing companion piece to the main Cowboy Bebop series. It tells a story about like a twisted mirror version of Spike Spiegel. Like, if you go back and rewatch like the original Cowboy Bebop, much of it is talking about is like how Spike believes he's caught up in a dream that he can't wake up from. Even when Vincent says it to him and he's like, yeah, I'm trapped in a dream, Spike just looks at him and goes, you're an original, aren't you? Because he can tell, he's like, wait a minute, you're just like me, bro. Like, get out of here. But while Spike, walks through life knowing, not caring whether he wakes up from the dream or not, or knowing eventually he will have to have that confrontation with Vincent, which is going to be the way he wakes up from the dream. Vincent isn't willing to do that. Like, he wants to smash that door down, even if it costs a whole planet its life. And, that kind of, the duality, the movie employs that same kind of thoughtfulness throughout, both in terms of plotting and in terms of inspired direction, camera choices. It's just a brilliantly made film. It develops its characters carefully. They're not throwing a ton of flashbacks at you. It's a film that kind of moves at its own pace. It's 2 hours long. And like after that opening segment where like they, handle those robbers, the movie kind of moves at its really own pace. It's like, it's slow, but once it ramps up, it doesn't slow down at all. And it does not care if you missed a bunch of stuff when it was explaining shit. It's just like, hey, man, we explained it. You should have been paying attention. And it just goes. But still, just being able to exist in the Cowboy Bebop universe again is what made it work for me. I got to give this like a 10 out of 10. It's also tackling like some really heavy subject matter, like that feels more relevant now than back then. Actually, probably just as relevant. We just were too young to appreciate it. Because you've got like this government creating a highly contagious disease and creating the vaccine for that disease and then trying to erase it, erase not just the vaccine and the disease, like pretending like they never did it in the first place. And by the way, like it really kind of felt like they ain't had no plan. Like they were so worried about the bad press or like somebody finding out what happened. They just didn't give a damn. They was like, hey man, we don't care if this shit get found out or not. Like we don't care if we have a vaccine or not, as long as we don't get found out. Like, they didn't have a reasonable plan to disseminate the vaccine once they got it. They just got outsmarted by Spike and the rest, which I thought was kind of crazy. I also love, and this is true of Cowboy Bebop in general, but I love that there's this bittersweet vibe to the film. Like, I noticed it growing up for the show, and that was why I love Cowboy Bebop. But what I never noticed was how broken all these characters are and how they're all searching for a home without realizing that you've already found a home. Like, you already have a place for you to belong. And there's this moment late in the film where Jet is sitting in the ship all by himself, and he's just like lamenting how he's allowing all these people to just walk in and out of his home and they just don't appreciate it. And it's so heartbreaking to me because I know that that's how the series ends, with Jet all by himself. And like, he won't even have Ein. Like, there's a moment with Jet and he's like with Ein, and Ein kind of knocks over one of the shogi tap tables, and like he's like, don't do that, basically because he kind of wants Spike to come back and so they can finish their game. And he eventually like picks Ein up and is just happy to have like Ein there. And I'm like, if I remember correctly, even Ein is gone because he leaves with Ed at the end. So like, he's just alone by himself. shout out to that opening. The opening segment is just really great, well animated, great fight scene, great. Like Spike is just the coolest fucking protagonist ever. Even though he can only convincingly win like one fight per series, because he was cold in that first fight against all them dudes, and then when he ran into Vincent, he like pieced him up. But Vincent was like, "That all you got?" And then had like some kind of hella super strength because he dug into that man's skin.
Yep.
And fucked Spike up. And then after that, it was over with for him. And then in the rematch, like, he got him, but mostly because he had just shot him a couple of times first. But otherwise, he wouldn't have got that man at all. And you know, that carries back to like, it goes back to like the old school Cowboy Bebop, where he always like, he had that really cold fight scene in the opening. And then after that, he just got his ass kicked all the time unless he was fighting Vicious. Like, he never had a chance. Like, he would fight everybody else and just get like pieced up. Like, was it the Mad Perot? And like, I think Ed's dad, he couldn't fight him really well. And like, it's several other major fights in Cowboy Bebop where he just gets beat up. And it's just like, oh, dang, I thought you was cold. But it's like, the coolness comes from like his character, not just from, oh, I can beat ass really well. Like, but yeah, I love this film. I was talking earlier before the podcast, Rakeem like showed some goofy ass manga that just, I was like, man, they should get this shit out of here. And I earlier in the week, I said something like, man, anime just need to be canceled just because I'm tired of seeing so much dumb shit in anime. And then Rakeem showed this dumbass manga. He was like, man, maybe Sage right. This shit do need to be canceled. And I was like, no, not after watching Knocking on Heaven's Door. Like, it bought it by 25 years of free rent. In 2026, God damn it, we got to come up with something new. We getting you the fuck out of here. What's up, Devin?
I wanted to chime in on what you said earlier, Sage, about how this like relates to stuff that we like the past few years. The scene where Faye came back and they was like, wait, you was near the explosion? And they was like,
you was near the bioterrorist thing?
And even Ian was like, hey man, hold up. I don't know if I'm a dog, but I might not be resistant to this. Like, that was hilarious. And like when they went to show the scene at the facility, the guy that was like started like, he's like, oh, I got hay fever. And they was like, oh, you good? Like, I got hay fever. It's like, because when COVID first started, you sneeze. I was like, you might well be shooting somebody.
Yeah.
Man.
Like, you about to sneeze? You sure you want to do that?
And the way Faye reacted was exactly the way people reacted back then when COVID first started, because she just kind of looked at him like, I ain't sick. And if I got it, you gonna get it too. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, like, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
They stay the same.
I swear.
Terrence, what did you think of the film, man?
You know, it's funny watching something like this, after COVID, and you know, just seeing a movie talk about a virus and you know it being spread and everything. It just hits different after going through COVID. So that's a thing. It's unfortunate that when this movie came out, it came out the year that 9/11 happened. In fact, I think like the month 9/11 happened is when this movie was released, which based on like some of the reviews that I saw, I feel like that kind of factored into the way some people saw it. Like, it just hit too close to home for some people. And I think that kind of like docked some points for people. But looking at it like 20 plus years removed from that, yeah, I really did enjoy this film. I have very similar feelings to what you all have about this movie, is that it was very enjoyable. I'll say that, you know, anything dealing with Cowboy Bebop, whether it's universe, like its world, its characters, it's just fascinating. Just the way that Shinichiro Watanabe has just like crafted this world of characters where, like you said, Sage, it doesn't feel like anime in a sense of like how, I don't even want to say modern anime, but like how
there's certain tropes that are used in anime. And Watanabe's like, I don't need none of that shit to make a character. Yeah,
like how kind of like very hyper stylized a lot of anime is now. And even back in like the 90s, anime was like that. There was very like hyper stylized. I mean, you had big eyes back then and you had like different shapes and different colored hair and everything. It's not like just a modern thing where anime is, you know, it's just that it's been taken kind of like to 11 with the way anime is now. 15. But I'll say that one thing that I also appreciate about Watanabe's world is just how effortlessly black and brown characters can just exist. Like, you watch the beginning of this movie, you just have, it's not like there's just like one or two that are just walking around. There's just plenty of them just casually walking around in the background. They're part of the world. They're not just like this one character that exists just to kind of like fill a quota in a sense, or like the diversity hire.
Right.
He's in like black sections of the city or brown sections of the city.
Yeah, exactly. And not even just like black characters, but also brown, where you have like people of like Indian descent and other Asian ethnicities that are more on like the darker skin tone side. So you have that going on. So that was really cool. It's just great to see that even something like this that came out in 2001, it was able to execute this in a way that a lot of modern anime still can't. And I'm not saying that all anime have to have, like black or brown characters necessarily. It depends on the world that they're establishing. But at the same time, it feels like the needle hasn't moved that much in comparison to where it was, 20 years ago. But, that's a rant in and of itself. Like you said,
we had an episode about that, by the way.
Yeah, shout outs to that. But like Will said, the music for this was amazing. I mean, Yoko Kanno always does an amazing job with the music, especially like a lot of the vocal arrangements for this movie. They were really well done, and especially the one at the end. That was great to listen to.
Man, love that end theme.
Yeah, very great to listen to. I will say, this might be a weird critique. It's not really like a full-on critique, but because this feels like, it really does feel like an extended anime arc. Like it feels like we watched 4 episodes of an arc of the series, which, I mean, you could argue that's what they were going for. I know that I think this technically, the way that they framed it is that it takes place between like episode 22 and 23. At least that's what I read. So you could consider it like an alternative anime arc, or even like maybe an alternative ending if you take away all the Syndicate and like Vicious stuff. You could almost see Vincent as just another Vicious in a sense, which is funny. You have 2 V's going on there, Vincent and Vicious. That's interesting. But that's not really a knock against the movie per se. It's just that, it is what it is, that it makes it feel like less of a movie and more of like just an extended version of the anime, which, to be fair, that's how a lot of anime movies are. They do tend to feel like extended versions of the show or like their source material. So, this doing the same thing. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, the art and animation, it was on point as always. You could definitely tell they got a little bump from the TV series, but it was definitely just great to look at. Just the Cowboy Bebop world, just the way that it looks from art and animation perspective is just amazing to look at. I'd say that if you're a fan of Cowboy Bebop, like, this movie is definitely going to be up your alley. You're going to thoroughly enjoy it. If you're someone that's not familiar with the universe, I still think there's something here for you. It's just that you won't have like that same kind of connection to it, obviously, just because they don't waste time introducing you to Spike, Faye, Jet, and Ein and Ed. It's kind of like they've already been established. We know who they are. We just kind of like go from there. But there's enough in the movie to give you an idea of who the characters are and give you enough knowledge about like their characterization and like their background and whatnot. Like, you don't get like full context, but you get enough to get from point A to point B by the time the movie is over. So I say that if you're a fan, like, this movie is going to be totally up your alley. It's a fun time, thoroughly enjoyable. And if you're not a fan, I think you would still have a good time. Some things might just fly over your head just because you hadn't seen the TV series. But overall, I think I would give it a very strong 9. I was teetering between like 8.5 and 9, but I will give it a 9 just because by the time the movie was over, I just realized that I had a fun time watching it. There were some bits that were a little on the slower side, but it didn't like take me out of the movie. I just realized there was the points where they needed to kind of like take care of some stuff before they could get back to the action, or like before things could like speed up again. I even enjoyed Electra. I think that was her name, right?
Yeah, that's her name.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually wanted to ask, do you feel like she was a little underdeveloped?
Yes.
To an extent, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They kind of just
like her development was caught up in Vincent so much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm sitting here thinking about it now, and I'm like, dang, you didn't get a ton from her.
Yeah, it wasn't really until the sequence when both Spike and her were in the cells that you got like that big exposition dump from her. And even then, you didn't get that. Everything wasn't answered until the end about like her connection to Vincent and how it all came full circle. So yeah, I do agree that she could have been developed more. But I think that's just because you have all the members of Bebop that they tried to like squeeze into the movie as much as they could. And maybe that's a flaw within the movie in and of itself, is that in an effort to try and keep everybody involved in some way, it can feel like some characters don't get as much focus as they should. So, you could consider that a flaw in it. But yeah, overall, I would give it a 9. And I forgot to mention that it is cool that, this is where the meme comes from about, I love a lady that can kick my ass. Like, everybody knows this movie from that, but not many people have probably watched the movie. But yeah, that's where it comes from, is that, I love a lady that can kick my ass, or a woman that can kick my ass. Yeah.
When as soon as Electra showed up, I was like, oh man, he's about to say it.
Yeah.
And as soon as like the fight was happening, I'm like, I was at the edge of my seat. And then finally he said, I was like, oh, he said the thing.
Yeah, it's like, say it, Bart, say it.
Say the line, Bart. Yeah.
I love a woman that can kick my ass. Yeah.
Yay!
But that's it for me.
I will say, like, I agree with you. Man, I thought about that, but I just didn't think to bring it up in my review. Man, I just love how Watanabe just includes people of color so effortlessly. And it's a conscious choice, and that's why it doesn't feel like any growth has happened. He's been making the choice. He was making the choice back then. He makes the choice now. Like, his last project was Carol and Tuesday. That featured a prominent black female character. Like, that's just his thing. Like, he doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to include some people of color in my shit. And it makes it feel more real. Because, like, once you start, it's one thing when the show is set in Japan. I'm like, okay, I'm not really expecting a ton of people of color. Like, if you have a few, that's cool. If you don't, I understand. But, like, when you start going like, oh, yeah, this is set in the distant future, and it's set on, just in the world, I'm like, all right, well, where is everybody? Like, why does everybody not, like, where are the people that, I'm going to need some of this? Like, you got to do better than what I'm seeing. And so, like, he, knowing that it's weird to set your, in, like, the whole galaxy, or, like, at least the solar system, and have, like, this whole, wide world, and not have just, like, people of all colors, it would be weird. And so, like, at one point, he's just walking through, like, Middle Eastern neighborhoods. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go, Spike. And Spike is just cool and relaxed about it. And, like, it's just treated as normal. And I love that. One thing I also say, or two more things I'll say real quick, and then I'm going to pass to Rakeem so we get his review, because I know it's going to be off the hook.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you always kill it, bro. The dub, I don't listen to dubs a lot. I really, like, I don't care. I understand, like, they all, people say, oh, dubs have come a long way, but they still just don't. They sound funny to me. Like, when I'm sitting there listening to it, they just sound weird. In fact, the other day, they released a dub trailer for, like, a video game I was excited about. And Rakeem was like, what do you think about the voice cast? And I was like, I really didn't pay attention to it, because I'm never going to listen to him again. I was like, as soon as the game comes out, we'll put it in Japanese, and we going to move on. But watching Cowboy Bebop, it just felt so natural. And, like, some of the little voice quirks that sometimes you'll hear in English dubs just aren't there. Like, every voice feels like it fits the situation. Every character, like, even when sometimes a character have an accent, I'm like, yo, it makes sense for this accent. Because, like, sometimes it'll be like a Japanese set in Japan, and they'll have, like, an Irish accent, and I'm like, okay, what the fuck are we doing? But, like, these characters, it all just makes perfect sense. What's up, Terrence?
I was just going to say, one thing that I can speak to that is that because Cowboy Bebop is a lot more real and, like, grounded, I think that you can get more of that, like, more so, like, authentic, quote unquote, kind of like acting with its dub. Whereas, because let's be honest, anime is very hyper stylized. It's very anime in the way that it's like everything is very excitable. And I mean, to be honest, like, the Japanese, and I'm not saying that English actors can't do that, because they definitely can, but, like, when it comes to, like, the Japanese, it's just that they're able to do that because that's where anime comes from. So, I mean, they know
it's
how
a cultural thing to
yeah,
a point.
they know how to execute on that. But, I mean, it's not natural for us, because, I mean, that's like saying Americans talk like SpongeBob. We don't. SpongeBob is hyper stylized in its own way. It's like, we don't go around going, yeah, there's just it's kind of the same thing. Just me making that comparison.
Just on Twitch. Just on Twitch.
I was definitely gonna say depends on who you talk to. But yeah, I agree. And like, there are some anime dubs that are like it. I'm not saying the anime dubs are all bad. They just typically aren't for me. But this one right here just felt so natural, and it was so weird for me to listen to and just be like, oh wow, it's just a dub. Like, okay. And it was weird because, like, I could look away from the screen and maybe do something else or type a note out right quick, and I'm not losing anything because I'm not automatically looking at the film. And so that was great. And then the last thing I'll say is the anime movies tend to be not all of them, but a lot of them can be like mediocre. They'll feel like a bigger version of a regular episode, but they don't. They kind of fall apart at the climax. Usually, they usually do a little bit too much, and it just feels out of place. Like the characters kind of feel out of place. It's like, I don't know, like it's almost like little kids wearing big kids clothing, like because it's supposed to be like, these television characters, and suddenly they're given this big movie adventure, and it's like, all right, we're doing a little too much. But like with Cowboy Bebop, the scale is the same because these characters are always dealing with like stuff that's above them, and so like when they're caught in this thing that's like bigger than they are, it's like, well, this isn't any different from the main series, and so it worked for me really well, and that's one thing I appreciate because a lot of anime movies just don't necessarily nail that. Rakeem, what did you think?
Okay, so I had quite a few thoughts about this. So right off the bat, as far as being as Cowboy Bebop, I enjoyed the series, but I never was a super hardcore fan of it because I never just watched it straight through. Like as a kid, I watched it on Adult Swim like many Americans did, and I would just watch random episodes. I didn't even watch the final episodes till I was an adult. Like I forced myself to like just watch it because I know it had like such an important moment in anime history. So a lot of like nostalgia for Cowboy Bebop, I don't really have as much because I didn't watch the full series all the way through. I did enjoy some of the characters, but I don't quite have that. So coming into this movie, I'm more of almost a casual watcher of this series because I don't remember it just as much. I have seen this movie before, but only once, and it's vague. So I'm just like you say, I had to recollect my memories of this movie from a long time ago. So first off the bat, I love the opening. I go back to what Devin said earlier. Opening kicks ass. Like it brings you into like why Spike is such a cool protagonist. He's cool under pressure. He knows how to make it relax, almost like Vash Stampede to a degree, that kind of character who like they have things under control even when they look like they don't have it under control. I like that type of character archetype. I love the dynamic between the characters. Like they're just this hodgepodge of like different personalities that shouldn't work, but they does work. I've always liked Ed. She's annoyingly adorable, and she's right at that line where like this could go a little too far, but you're cute, so I'm gonna let it slide. I always liked Ed like that. Jet, trying to be the kind of the sensible one, the most experienced, trying to keep everybody together. Faye always complaining. Like she's like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I like those characters. I like the dynamic between those characters. And even though I wasn't a huge Cowboy Bebop fan, I remember those characters very much so from my childhood, and they're all right here. You're dropped right into this world, right in the moment. They're still in the same situation. They have no money. They're still bounty hunters. They're not making a lot of money. But off the bat, that was fire. My second point, I remember another point that Will brought up earlier. This soundtrack kicks ass. We can big it up more. This soundtrack is great. I literally said while I was watching this, man, save some for the rest of the anime. God, dog. Man, it felt like the moments when it's like jazzy and it ramps up the right moments. It's calm when it needs to be, cool and collected. I remember the part where you were like in certain parts of the country, the music would change the theme for that type of area or whatever, like it seamlessly. Another thing about this, I wanted to point out that I noticed. I'm not sure if this probably was a purposeful decision. One thing I liked about this was like there was a seamless transition between like modern day and futuristic, and it never felt like the future was in reach. Like they had these cool ships, but you went down to the modern level. Every person just looked like a regular person you would see every day of the week.
Yeah, it ain't no Star Trek clothing.
They had regular cars. If you didn't have the money to buy a spaceship, you didn't have a spaceship. It just wasn't. Nothing was really crazy about that, but it was kind of cool to see the juxtaposition of this crew of bounty hunters in the skies with ships, and then people just on the ground living their regular lives. And they kind of made it a point to show the backdrops of people living their regular lives and like getting you immersed into this world. That transition there. Something else that was cool I noticed in this movie, there's a theme of almost nostalgia. There were multiple points in this movie where characters would bring up something from the past was better. I remember specifically like the hacker who was in the car and he was playing these old games from like back in the day. They're way better than the modern games. Or the pilots, later at almost the end of the movie where they're like, man, these ancient planes, man, these are the planes you really want to ride. Clinging on to nostalgia or the past was like a big theme here. And I think that kind of almost ties into like Vincent because he has no memory of the past. He doesn't have that like need to protect it. He since he wants to destroy everything, he has no need to protect himself. I think that kind of ties into it to a degree. I noticed that kind of theming going on. I kind of like that. I really enjoyed action in this movie. I enjoyed the fight scenes. I think one area I think was weak for me, I didn't really like the villains. Like you had the hacker boy, whatever. Vincent, I think he was fleshed out to a degree. I kind of understand his plight, but he was like so over the top with it. I was like, yeah, man, I got screwed over. So I'm killing everybody on Earth. And starting like, all right, buddy. All right, dude.
Well, Mars, but yeah.
Yeah, Mars. Yeah, everybody on Mars, like, everybody got to go right now. Like, all right, buddy, you lost me. You lost me right there. I was not feeling the villains as much. I wanted to wrap it up. I was like, let's wrap this up. Like, let's get these guys out of here. I remember that moment where Spike and Vincent had the fight on the train, which is the one part of this movie, even though it was a long time ago, I always remember with that fight because Spike got his ass whooped and got kicked off that train and shot midair and somehow survived and landed on the beach and was saved by some Native Americans. Saved by some Native Americans on the beach who gave like a cool speech. And
what they gave him a name to?
Yeah, someone Women Bird or something. I was like, what the fuck?
That was so random, man. Yeah, there were parts of the movie, like, if I would have a knock, there were some parts of the movie where I was like, maybe this works, but I don't know about the logic. That part right there, and maybe the ending, like, I was like, okay, I see what y'all doing, like getting past the execution of the nanobots with the antivirus and the rain. I'm like, but all this stuff, how it was done, I don't know if that would actually work that way. Definitely but you know not. What? Yeah, that's why I was like, would that work that way? And then on top of
what
that,
if you stayed inside that entire time and you never got hit with the rain?
Yeah. That was a lot of parts there. I was like, and you couldn't really get delved too deep into that because the movie pretty much wrapped up right after that happened. Yeah. And also another part was that like the military just going like, all right, well, I guess we ain't gonna be able to kill these dudes and just gonna let it happen and just
gave up.
Just gave up. That's not worry about it. We try to kill him for like 30 minutes, but you know what? We're just gonna stop here. Don't worry about it, guys. You got it.
I mean, okay, so there's two things. One, this does take place towards the end of the series. So,
true.
Spike ain't gonna be alive too much longer, no way.
That's what I'll bring up next. Is like they got Spike later. Don't worry about it.
I was supposed to say they ain't gotta worry about that. And then the other thing is there is a fan theory that this whole thing was just a dream. Like, just
you know, that makes sense.
Oh no, not that.
Not this.
The Final Fantasy syndrome.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah,
they hit us with that one episode of what was it, Batman the Animated Series, where everything.
With the mask and shit. Where where they thought he was like on the run the whole time, and it turned out it was like a dream or whatever.
Yeah, that episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I remember now. I think about that. Like there was a big theme in the movie where people who were affected by the nanobots had the butterfly effect, and there was that one moment he saw it, and then like Oak closed his hand, and opened back up. It was almost like a nod to what was going on, and we did Perfect Blue, like what was reality, what wasn't reality, but you know, not done as super deep as Perfect Blue did it, but that was still a big part of that. Well, like what was reality, what wasn't, what was in a dream, and perception and things like that. But overall, I liked the movie. I thought it was decent. I think I as far as the pacing, like, you know, might have some minor pacing issues. I thought pacing was perfect in the beginning, and of course they had to slow it down. The Spike almost died, so they had to like, hey, he got to come back, get his crew together, get this together, then come back. I totally understand that, so that wasn't really a big drop. For me, I'll give the movie about an 8. I enjoyed it. I think it brought a lot of things to the table. I think if you're a Cowboy Bebop fan, this movie is going to rock for you because you're already invested in this world, and it just kind of gives you more of what you already like. If you're a casual fan, there are things about it you will like. You probably will still like the characters because they are able to show themselves a lot more. Jet doesn't get as much prominence in this movie, but he does have enough scenes to kind of get a good idea of how his character works. I feel like this is really the Spike, Faye, and Ed show. Like they killed it. Like they especially Ed was actually very useful in this movie. She nailed down and found the hacker with a dog. Like on her own. Like nobody even knew where she was at. Like, where you at? Like, oh, I'm finding a hacker.
Oh, I was actually thinking about that. There's a moment in the film where Faye's like, during that scene where Faye asked her like, "Hey, stay right where you at," and like you forget sometimes that Ed is a kid because she's so smart, and so she's like, "Stay right where you at. I'll be right there." And then Ed immediately is like, she looks off, sees some kids, is like, "I'm still a kid," and just ran off to go do some kid shit.
Which, by the way, I forgot to mention that it's like it's funny that we reviewed this movie with Halloween, coming up. So
right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner. So yeah,
I mean, it's good because I'm probably good luck getting like an actual horror film up out of me as far as like reviews go. We'll see what Halloween themed anime films we can find, but if it's like some really fucked up shit, I'm gonna bow out. Yo.
We can find like a werewolf anime or something,
Oh, so just general. But yeah, and then the other thing I'll say that I noticed about what Rakeem said as far as like nostalgia, or in the hacker's case, Animoya, which is just like nostalgia for a time that you never lived through.
Yeah, that's a good point.
One of the things is like how Cowboy Bebop, if you're not paying attention, you don't realize that it's kind of a broken future. It's kind of like dystopian in its own way. It's not, depressingly dystopian. It's more like a real life dystopia. Like the cops suck, like Jet has that conversation with one of his old cop buddies, and he's like, "Yeah, it's different from when you was here. We're not actually interested in solving crimes." He tried to explain, and Jet like, "Ain't shit changed. That's exactly why I left. What you mean?"
Yeah.
The military suck. They created this fucking virus, and they don't want the vaccine to get out. They don't want the virus to get out, and so they're willing to kill people and erase memories and all this fuck shit. The syndicate is not mentioned a lot. It does have one reference in here. They control everything. There's a point where Spike talks to the old men, and the old men are like, they said something like, "If you're a cop, we don't know nothing." And he was like, "Do I look like a cop?" They was like, "I mean, you look kind of like a syndicate dude, to be honest with you." And that's kind of the same thing to us. And that lets you know the kind of power that the syndicate has and like what they've been doing with shit. Like everything sucks. What's up?
They picked that table up and moved it and just walked away. That was so fucking funny.
Yeah, some more information. It was like, he said, "Oh, I'm a bounty hunter," and they said, "It's like, does that help?" It's like, "Yeah, we used to be bounty hunters," and then they picked that table, got the fuck away from him.
See you, cowboy.
Yeah, exactly. See you, cowboy. Because they knew wherever he is, if you a bounty hunter, trouble ain't nothing but trouble gonna follow you, and they got immediately the fuck away from him. I couldn't blame him. But yeah, it's a bit bleak. But as far as like the nostalgia and like everybody thinking like, "Oh, I like miss the past," it's basically them saying there's nothing to look forward to. Like all the best things have already happened, and there's no point in looking forward. Might as well just look back. And that's a really sad way to look at life. But like that is also kind of like a sad future that they're living in their own way. Okay, so before we get up out of here, I do want to ask y'all, what did y'all find was like the worst villain? Vincent himself, or like the people that made him like that? Because we don't really get to see too much of it. We get to see it when Electra's kind of interacting with them, but for the most part, we don't get to see a lot of it. So, Devin, who would you say is like the worst of the two?
I wanted to say the army because it's like you have these soldiers and then you're experimenting on them, like I'm pretty sure against their will, and then doing these things to them, and they're like so I get that. But I'm gonna have to say Vincent because he's got that quintessential "I'm gonna destroy the world" and everything. Like, where you gonna be at? Like, I don't understand these villains that be like, "I'm gonna destroy everything." Well, what you gonna be doing? It's like I don't know, man. Like, I feel like Vincent played. I think the time that he was off the scene, he's probably playing Final Fantasy. Because I promise this man reminds me of Sephiroth. He had these one-liners. This man was spitting, boy. He was like, "See, this man sound like a RPG villain." Was it like he said he was talking to Faye when she was in there? He had her tied up. To the other dude that he was asking, like, "Hey, man, you got to pay me the rest of the money." He's like, "When it's finished, I'll give you the rest." He said some close like, "You better pray." And he came back at the end and he said, "Hey, man, what about the rest of the money?" He said, "Did you pray?" I was like,
he had that other line too before he killed the hacker. He was like, "Yeah, I'm playing this game back in the day, solitaire. You played until there was only one left." And he shot that thing and it was like, "Wait a minute, what are you doing?"
I was like,
only one left.
Like, the first thing I thought about when Sephiroth read those books, he found the truth. It's like, oh, so this is what the world is. I'm gonna burn it all. I'm gonna burn everybody. This man, he had a line said, I have no fear. I have no fear of death. It just means dreaming in silence. A dream that lasts for eternity. I'm like, bro. And he's like, know much about purgatory? It's the place between heaven and hell, where those who were left behind, unable to get into heaven, continue to suffer. A place of struggle and pain. In other words, the world that we're in now. I'm like, so this RPG villain, bro. Like, this is an RPG villain, bro. This man take. So I got to give it to Vincent because this is the thing. Like, I think with King, you might have remember me showing you, might have watched it. Resident Evil, I think it was Vendetta. The guy that, well, I can kind of understand him because the army like dropped bombs at his wedding, so his like everybody got killed except him. But again, he wanted to destroy the world. I'm like, why don't you just go after the people that did something to you? Like, why you got to kill everybody? So I'm the same thing with Vincent. He was people on the train. He shot somebody on the train, dude. I'm like, that dude was just sitting on the train, bro.
And one dude that happened to be in front of Spike got it, bro.
Man,
like I mean, you kill people on the train. I'm sure the explosion killed people. Like, he just like, you have no like, what's the word I'm looking for? You have like no like self-awareness to be like, okay, there's morals. There's like no self-awareness to be like,
what you're looking for.
Empathy. Well, empathy and self-awareness is like, okay, I got to be like, it's other people around me. They didn't do nothing to me. It was an army. Everybody ain't no army. But he's like, nah, man. I'm like, this man ain't nothing but an RPG villain. Just Sephiroth. It's like, bro, like, chill out, man. It's like, why everybody got to die, man? I've always had that thought of villains to be like, hey, man, everything got to go. I'm killing everybody. What's left?
Well, there's a theory that he basically didn't believe the world around him was real.
Yeah.
And so, like, he was going to do this to try and snap himself out of it and wake himself up out of this dream. Like, he literally thought he was dreaming.
Man, this ain't Kingdom Hearts, man. Again, he playing RPGs.
Like, that sword quote is like, is any of this real?
It's a dream drop. Vincent, I can't go in at the end. Vincent he was like, I can't go on. It's like, what do you tell Electra? I can really see you very clearly now. Like, shut up. He saw it before.
The man said, my memories came back at this moment.
At this moment that I got.
I know you're real.
Yeah, I knew you were real. I'm gonna have to go with Vincent, man. Like I said, I know the army, what they did was not right, but bro, you can't be out here just taking everybody out with you, man. Come on, bro.
All right, okay, I give you that.
I see that. I can see.
I'm hoping that this is more, back and forth. So I'm gonna ask for Keen. Which one do you think is the villain, the army or Vincent? The worst villain.
Definitely the army, because like, why would you make that weapon in the first place? Like, of course, we get the background later that Spike discovers the scientist is Rashid who created it, and that wasn't what he intended it for in the first place, but it kind of got manipulated and he got pushed out. And I remember Spike punched him like, "Oh yeah, what's up?"
So in that, when he told that story to Spike, he was like, he destroyed the vaccine, but couldn't destroy the virus. I was like, what? Why would you go in that order? Why wouldn't you destroy the virus first? Just in case, like, okay, well, if I don't destroy the vaccine, oh, well, like, it's a vaccine to nothing. At least I got rid of the virus. But he was like, no, I'm going to destroy the vaccine first. And in that way, if the virus is destroyed, if the virus is not destroyed, it's like, oh, ain't no cure. We just all fucked. Like, that's why Spike punched that man. He was
Spike punched that dude in the stomach. But yeah, like, when I thought of the context of it, like, you find out that this pharmaceutical company is a front for a military operation. This experimentation happened. Clearly, there were multiple people who were involved and probably died, and a whole bunch of side effects to that. And clearly, like, what happened to Vincent made him into something like mentally and physically incongruent with what like reality and what he was before, to the point where like people who knew him in the past, he didn't even recognize him anymore until they got shot up, apparently.
The great equalizer.
A bullet.
The great equalizer.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it kind of speaks to like a bigger commentary, I guess, on like how the effects of like government powers can break the people who they're supposed to serve, people they're supposed to help. Like, this could have been used in a different way, maybe like as a medical reasons or something like that to like save people, but it became such a like uncontrollable mess that could instantly kill people super fast. And instead of trying to solve the issue, tried to hide it. That was when I was like, yo. It's like, yo, when they said, yo, we got a vaccine, I'm like, no, we take that out too. You, him, the vaccine, Spike, the babies, anybody who saw it, they got to go. And if they don't go,
how do we have a vaccine to something that's not even supposed to exist? Bitch, it does exist. So you got a vaccine for it. The end.
Yeah, that military group specifically, like, especially since they were doing it under the guise of a pharmaceutical company, there was just too much bullshit with that. And then when they found out Electra had like, oh, you got nanobots in your blood, jail. Like, it turned on her super fast. Like, yeah, I can't get with that. And on top of that, like, if they're that shady now, like, there was nothing stopping them from keep doing fuck shit.
Oh, they definitely kept doing fuck shit.
Yeah, I was like,
we won't see it because we spent our time in the Cowboy Bebop universe and we've left, but like, they definitely staying up to that fuck shit.
There's definitely still fuck shit going. If they're doing that and just covering it up and like no repercussions for it because nobody knows where it came from, because it got fixed. It got fixed. So like they're still out there. There's still a lot. Vincent is dead. He can't do that shit no more. They still at large. They still could do some experiments. They still fucking people over. Still covering things up. And like you said, it's kind of this dystopian world. Like, kind of feeds into that loop of like you never really get the conclusion you really want.
The bad guys never really get theirs.
Yeah.
True.
But yeah, that's okay. So now we 1-1. Terrence, which direction you leaning?
I think it is easy to just say that the medical, like the pharmaceutical company / the army is definitely the bigger bad guy here. I do find Devin's take on it to be pretty funny. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that is true. He definitely, Vincent had a lot of things that outside of the what happened to him is like, yeah, why are you, wanting to take everybody with you? But you can make that argument for real life people who do that sort of thing, where it's like there's really no method to the madness. Is just that's just what they want to do. In this case, I'll say that Vincent is essentially just a weapon that the army created. It's like he's essentially their own undoing. It's like they messed up and they created this, essentially this monster that came to undo all the corruption that they were doing all in the background. And I know, Rakeem, you brought up how they could have used this vaccine for any, like the nano machines and whatnot. They could use that for any old thing, but that just goes to show that if a corporation or the army or the government can take something and like exploit it in some kind of way, then they definitely are going to. I mean, that we have that right now with AI, where it's like there's so many other helpful things that you could do with AI, but you have like corporations wanting to replace artists with it. It's like, you know what? Voiceover? No, we don't need real people for that anymore. We'll just get AI voices to do that.
Paying people.
Yeah, paying people. Nah, we don't need to do that. We'll just have a machine do it and it'll be fine. They won't be able to tell the difference. Script writing. We don't need no writers. We can just have the machine just, write a little something for us. So it just goes to show that, yeah, if there's something out there that some good can come out of, best believe that somebody's going to find something negative to put their own little spin on it to make it the worst thing ever. I guess if I had to make a decision between the two, I guess I would technically say the army. I'll just say the army. I'll say the army just because, I mean, they're the ones who started all this in the first place. Essentially, the army here is like Umbrella from Resident Evil, where
pretty much,
they're posing as a pharmaceutical company with all this other stuff that's going on underneath it, and when shit hits the fan, you see the consequences of it all. So, I mean, in the same way with Umbrella, you have the villains that come out of that, like you have Nemesis, you have Wesker, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of like with this pharmaceutical company, you have Vincent that comes out of it, and he's just a weapon of their own making. So I'll give it to the army just because, yeah, they started all this to begin with, and they dipped their toes into something that they shouldn't have. But I I do see the merit to Devin's argument though. Like I definitely do in terms of like, yeah, Vincent was definitely on some RPG villain level stuff.
He absolutely
He
was.
really
Okay,
was.
so we are 2-1 in favor of the pharmaceutical company. Will,
So
which way you leaning, bro?
I do agree with Terrence. I do see the merit to Devin's argument because I'm not gonna lie. Whew, Vincent was something. Man, he was a humdinger, as my grandma would say. But if I had to truly be like for real about it, it's definitely the pharmaceutical company because just like Terrence said, Vincent is a weapon of their own doing. And then with him being the one that's out there, it makes you wonder how many before him.
Well, as far as this goes,
Yeah.
everybody died except Vincent and Electra, apparently.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder how many before him before they really got a good successful attempt and it stuck with him. And truthfully, if I had to say so, they're like literally like the background. They're like the puppet master in a way. Just to kind of put it out there. They're the puppet master. They control the strings of having this one dude just roam around and just go on a straight tear, taking out anyone and everyone, no matter who they are, or just walking around just casual. And no one's really paying him any mind. He looks normal. He looks fine, but as soon as he turns a corner and gets to an alleyway, somebody might get shanked, and he's walking off into the distance with a knife in his pocket, and you won't even know he did it because he's walking off just that casually.
You know what? I wouldn't be worried about a knife with that dude, but if he got a balloon, oh Lord have mercy. Even balloons, boy.
I'm worried about that grip.
Yeah, that
grip.
He fucked Spike up with that grip. I was like, God damn.
Dug into him with his fingers, which is like, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Like, did that experiment give you super strength? Because you fucked Spike up.
He also drug him by his neck just by holding him with his neck.
He did.
Yeah,
I'm about to say, did he get the power of some dude from Hunter x Hunter?
That's what I'm saying.
Dude with the power of grip?
Power of grip.
Oh, you mean Baki?
Yeah, but it's the pharmaceutical company. They are the ones like just standing over just like this big shadow that looms over Mars. Just like, we're doing this. You know we're here. We're going to keep doing it. You got rid of one. We can find another one. Yeah, we got one walking out there right now. You just don't know it.
So that's 4-1 or 3-1. My pick is that goddamn hacker. That hacker was an asshole.
Man, he was so
annoying. First off, he out here playing retro games in the far future. Man, you wasn't around for none of that shit. Put that shit down. Yeah. Put that goddamn Game Boy down. It's 2076, bro. Put the Game Boy down right now.
No.
But the other thing, like, he was just being evil just to be evil. Like, he didn't care about nothing. Bit. He was like, hey man, back in the day, it was easy to do something and be notable for it. People used to hack in everything with no work at all. Now you got to become a terrorist to become known. So I appreciate you for letting me live out my terrorist dreams and get my name in the books. I said, what the fuck? What kind of dumbass reason? And fuck him and his little watchdog powers, because he was out there like fake caught him and then he just started tapping on his side. He didn't have no damn. He didn't have a phone. He didn't have a screen. He just had 2 keyboards on his sides. And he just started tapping and he knocked out the power. I said, who the fuck is this? Aiden Pierce? Like, what's going on? He died like a.
Is it worse that he just looked like a regular black dude? Like, he didn't look crazy.
Yeah,
dude had no fat, regular clothes on.
What no animation?
Anything that kind of works for him, because a lot of times when they do these hacker characters, they make it like kind of weaselly little characters. In his case,
he actually looked cool. He had dressed pretty fresh. I ain't gonna lie to you, he was fresh.
Did I hack that?
Yeah.
What did I do that?
Man, he definitely he had like a little cold look to him. But I was
just
like,
get
your villainous ass out of here. But all joking aside, I mean, like, of course, if you ask me to pick between an individual and a whole fucking system, I'm gonna pick the system every time. These motherfuckers. First off, like, as evil as Vincent is, and I respect Devin's argument, but like basically they destroyed that man's mind. Like the virus in the first place, when they injected it, it like erased all of his memories, or at least it like made him unable to connect with those memories for a long time. And so like he had forgot who he was. It ate away his personality, just left like a monster on the inside. So like that was already a problem. And then the fact that they just how inept they were throughout the film, just like not wanting to, like Spike and Jet and Faye figured out where to go, and they dumbasses were sitting over there like, oh, it's going at the water treatment plant. Like, hey, man, this ain't a Tony Baker sketch. Just because the villains say, I'm going to poison the water supply, that don't mean he going to do it. Like, what the fuck?
Poison the water supply.
See, after I poison the town's water supply, I get everything I want. Like, the fuck? Tricked, like they really fell for that shit too. Like they all these resources you got, and you just didn't have no plan beyond it. I'm like, all right, buddy, I guess. And so that was the problem. And then just like again, having a vaccine. Like what if Electra hadn't had the vaccine? Even like, how was you gonna stop this shit? Because you didn't have no other plan. You didn't have no side plan. And that dumbass scientist, who's another villain as far as I'm concerned, that dumbass scientist was like, well, I deleted the vaccine first, and then I was going to get around to deleting the disease. No, motherfucker. It's always the other way around. Get rid of the disease first, because if there's a vaccine to nothing, who cares? Like, what's wrong with you? So, yeah, it's definitely the whole organization, like that whole shit, like everything about them pissed me off. And then the fact that they not only got away with it, but like, they didn't even pay that bounty at the end. The boys still broke by then. I'm like,
they were
saved the whole planet, and y'all still busted
because they died.
Well, I mean, like Spike eventually dies, but like that, the crew, they didn't die, and they couldn't cash in.
I mean, the hacker, he died. So.
Oh no. Well, the hacker did die. Oh no, look, like
he did
dead or alive for certain things.
Oh, that's true. But he was the original bounty.
Yeah, but he was only worth $5 million. I'm talking about the $300 million on Vincent.
Oh.
Should have been able to take him in and get something. But I mean, of course, they weren't gonna pay it out because they couldn't acknowledge what he did wrong in the first place. So
that's a good point.
But any other points y'all want to bring up?
They probably didn't get to pay on that money because Vincent had probably spent all of it on the black material trying to summon a meteor. I ain't got nothing.
Really turned his head a sparrow.
Definitely did.
Hey.
This universe already has a sparrow, Devin. It's vicious.
Nah,
yeah.
He's a tall man, pale skin, long ass silver hair with a giant fucking katana. Like it already has a sparrow.
Hey man, this one the soldier clone.
This is one of his sons. This is one of his sons.
Yeah, that's one of his children.
Is this Kadaj?
Yeah,
I know, right? Is this
is
it Yezu?
Oh my gosh. Now we getting into the deep Final Fantasy lore. I thought this was a goddamn Cowboy Bebop review, but
you're right.
You're
damn right. That's what happened when you have a whole bunch of Final Fantasy fans in one place. That's what happened.
That is what happened. I think that's gonna wrap it up for this week's episode. If you like that, I need a few things from you. I need you to do us a favor, hit that subscription button. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok. Tell all your nerdy ass friends and family members about us, and do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.